This video is part 1 of a 3-part collab with the Nerd Guys. Part 2 will be on their channel tomorrow, so I've linked it below, so go and subscribe.
This is where the fun begins.
So for each one of the trilogies, me and the Nerd Guys are going to be rating each one of the categories out of 10. So for characters, I would probably say 9 out of 10. I loved how Anakin was portrayed, even though Hayden Christensen actually gets a lot of hate for it, which I don't understand. The reason that Obi-Wan's my favourite character is probably from the prequels, I'll be honest. Ewan McGregor did an amazing job at it, and he did excellent symmetry, in my opinion, to what Alec Guinness was like.
When it comes to the prequels, I have to give the characters 10 out of 10. This is because not only did they give a backstory to things in the originals like Old Ben Kenobi and the Clone Wars, but they also greatly influenced my personality as I grew up. So for example, I was a really big fan of Qui-Gon Jinn when I first watched The Phantom Menace, so as I grew up, I loved Qui-Gon Jinn, I'd quote things that he said, I'd try to think like him if I could. I even bought his lightsaber even though it was a rip-off one, it was actually a red blade and I'm not sure why.
So for characters from the prequels, I'll rank this a 9 out of 10 because all the characters from the prequels I love, especially obviously Anakin. He was obviously the main character from the very beginning of the prequels, like George Lucas said. He was the main, basically the foundation of Star Wars. He was the thing behind, he's the character behind it. The whole saga was about Anakin and leading up to him becoming Vader. There's a lot of other characters as well, like obviously Padme, Obi-Wan, everyone loves Obi-Wan Kenobi, and yeah, Maul is obviously my favourite character from the prequels.
So for the plot, I would have to rate it 9 out of 10 again, even though that might be a little bit generous. Episode 1 for me, it seemed very focused on the politics, which I wasn't 100% a fan of, if I'm being honest.
Our best choice would be to push for the election of a stronger Supreme Chancellor.
However, everything else I loved, like Anakin's arc was done really well, and so was Palpatine's rise to power. The whole plot was actually very good. It was just episode 1 wasn't great for me, in my opinion.
Now for plot, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, mainly because Revenge of the Sith, the plot in that mainly carried it all for me. Because Phantom Menace, kind of a bit boring. It's one of those movies you can only really watch once and enjoy it. And Attack of the Clones, the only reason I really liked it was because of all of the fights, Geonosis and all of that.
I think the plot is a 10 out of 10. The plot of the prequels was obviously Anakin's turn to the dark side and his downfall from what he was. Obviously it was the Council and obviously Jedi and his fear of losing Padme that turned him to the dark side eventually. And there's references to real life as well, like with the character of Anakin, and yeah, I think the plot is very good, which I rated it 10 out of 10.
For me, the prequel visuals are unmatched by any other trilogy. Like 10 out of 10, probably couldn't get better. I think the visuals are actually what made me love the prequels as much as I do. Like, my favourite ever scene is Anakin storming the temple in Order 66. Camino was a great scene when Obi-Wan went to find Jango. We got so many good scenes in the prequels. I don't think that they're really matched by any other trilogy.
Now the prequels also get a 10 out of 10 in visuals because the editing and all of that was amazing. Scenery, perfect, especially in Naboo. That's my favourite planet from the prequels. Also the way they showed Order 66 was also really visually impacting. That sounds like I'm an English teacher, but you know what I mean. It looked very good for when it came out.
But yeah, I thought the visuals were amazing, so I'll rank them a 9 out of 10. The battles, duels, and I think everything in the prequel trilogy for visual-wise is amazing.
For the dialogue, I mean, if we could just include all of the meme dialogue, it would be a 10 out of 10 just for the hello there alone. However, I found some of Anakin's dialogue a little bit, lack of a better word, creepy.
Sorry, milady.
But I would still give it 7 out of 10. I just think that would be the one area where there'd be improvement.
However, dialogue only gets a 6 out of 10 for me because it was kind of bland and, things like...
I don't like sand.
I mean, I know it's a funny meme, but, taking it seriously in the movie was very difficult for me. The main things I liked about the dialogue in the prequels was the conversations between Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Obviously that was amazing. I also like the way Qui-Gon Jinn spoke, and Dooku because it's wise.
Are you an angel?
But then again, there are the negative conversations like Anakin and Padme talking in The Phantom Menace in Auto Shock. Not only is it a bit weird that a 9-year-old and 14-year-old, I believe, were kind of flirting, if you know what I mean, but it must have been extremely awkward for the actors.
The dialogue, obviously most dialogue in the prequels have turned into memes, like hello there, but you know, the dialogue between certain characters like Obi-Wan and General Grievous, that's got turned into a meme. Most of it got turned into a meme, but I think either way the dialogue in the movies were amazing.
So the choreography and the lightsaber fights, in my opinion, the lightsaber duels that we got in the prequels were insane. Obi-Wan vs Anakin was always going to be my favourite duel ever to happen in Star Wars. Also, when Anakin uses 2 sabers in the Clone Wars against Dooku, I was loving that was amazing. Duel of the Fates as well in Episode 1, with Darth Maul fighting Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. That was amazing as well. I don't think, well, especially from the jump of original trilogy, because I watched that one first, to the prequels, it was such an improvement.
Now, choreography obviously gets a million out of 10. I love the choreography in prequels. Every single duel was amazingly executed by the actors, and the planning that went into it must have been intense, and it paid off. Watching them as a kid, I was just staring at the screen in awe. For example, watching Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan against Maul was fascinating to me as a kid, because it was probably the first duel I ever saw on screen in Star Wars, and it just amazed me.
Choreography for the lightsaber duels, and I thought this was 10 out of 10 as well. I think the lightsaber duels in the prequel trilogy were amazing. Obviously Maul and Obi-Wan, I thought that was awesome, their fight. Obviously Anakin and Obi-Wan, one of the best lightsaber duels of all time. Had so much meaning towards Anakin, obviously his downfall to the dark side and his hatred for Obi-Wan because of his loss, and that is what fuels Vader every day. Not just that, the Count Dooku and Anakin fight, General Grievous and Obi-Wan, I thought every fight in the prequel trilogy, every single fight in the original prequel trilogy is amazing, and yeah, it just shows a lot, and I'll be ranking that a 10 out of 10.
I'd easily rate the prequels the highest out of all of them, so 9.5 out of 10. Mainly because of Anakin's turn to the dark side and how it was done was really good.
Overall, I give the prequels a 9 out of 10 because they're amazing, but they were let down by a few aspects like the dialogue.
So I'd rate the prequel trilogy a 9 out of 10 because I think obviously it sets up really well for the rest of the Star Wars trilogy. Obviously the original trilogy and the sequels, I think they all link well, and yeah, I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 because I feel like Episode 1 I thought was a good movie, but I think there was a lot more to improve on in that movie. But yeah, I feel the prequel trilogy was an amazing trilogy and it was a good way to start off.